I did well the first year. Yes, but then while I was there, I was always going to museums and galleries and shows to kind of keep myself sane. My goal was always to be an art lawyer, and I wanted to own a gallery. And I'm like a first generation college student. I did not have a scholarship student. I was like, I can't afford this, so what can I do? I can be a lawyer. That's how I can make money. So I'm from Fort Worth, Texas. I went to Texas Christian University. While I was there, I took a lot of drawing and painting classes and freelanced a little bit, just kind of writing for whatever. If somebody had something they wanted me to write about that was art related. But I first got published when I was in law school in the St. James Encyclopedia of Hip Hop. So a friend of mine who had moved to Chicago invited me because I've always really loved writing and listening to music also. So that was like a moment where I was like, I like doing this. I don't really love being in law school or the law students. But this made me happy. So, but I flunked out of law school.
Let's hold up and talk about that a second, because failure is like probably the most interesting thing that can actually happen to someone.
Yeah.
And it's something we're scared of a lot of times to think about and talk about, and changing course. Everyone, especially when they're at this point in their lives, it's parents and other people are saying you got to know what you're going to do better. And how hard was that decision, saying, oh, you know what, and telling people like, I'm not going to do art law, I'm going to do art writing instead?
It was, I think, so I don't have any contact with my parents, but like the relatives that I was in contact with, like, what are you doing? Like, you have all these loans. So basically, I was academically dismissed, and I could have come back. But I was like, I don't want to try to come back. My heart isn't in it. That's why I didn't do well. I was running around, going to auto bar, going to the Crown, going to the BMA. I was not paying attention. I just didn't. And also, low-key, a lot of my classmates were extremely racist, and I was like, y'all are really going to be representing Baltimore City students, and it bothers me. I just can't be in this environment. So I was like, I just was very depressed, but I also remember, I said, you know what, this might be a silver lining, because I'll just figure it out. But I definitely had an existential crisis, because like for so long, all I did was work on being a lawyer. That was my identity. I'm a law student. I was a counselor, a college admissions counselor in Texas for 2 years, and I was studying for the LSAT afterwards. So when they were like, okay, but you're not going to be an attorney, you could take a break and come back and reapply. I was like, well, who am I? Like it was bad.
So it's fascinating too, because we had one of the guests that we had was Natasha Dartig, the public defender in Maryland. But one person's path isn't everybody's path, and it's really. And we've been bringing people in to talk about their professions, but that idea of like when you don't have that profession, who am I now is really also one of the most profound things that we can go through as people. So how did you land on your feet and start doing more writing from that?
It's a really good question. So I was a paralegal through a temp agency for like a year or two, and then around the same time, Be More Art announced that they were going to do a staff writer position and needed somebody to run or work at the Connect and Collect Gallery. So Be More Art is an art journal. I think they publish 4 issues a year. They have a really heavy online presence, and so I was like, I could just pitch. So a lot of my friends are artists, which is partially why I did not do well in law school, because I was following them around. But I started. Okay, I can write about their shows, and so I pitched a story there. That happened, and then I applied for that position and I got it, and I was like, okay, I guess like trust in the universe, this is a sign. And then around the same time, it was like that was when I got an invitation from Teri, which is an art gallery in downtown that's now closed, to curate a show. So one of my collaborative art partners, his name is Malcolm Lomax. He went to MICA, and he has an art practice called Wickerham and Lomax, and so they ran this bar called Disco Bar, and Malcolm knew that I was really curious. I was still there when I was in law school, because he was like, you love art, like you should do something here. And I was like, what do you mean do something here in this bar? He's like, just do something here. So I did a couple of pop-up events that were kind of like, we totally transformed the space. People came in, like it was just like an activation where I wanted people to come in and just have fun. and they were really successful. And so we started this platform called WDLY that ended up the BMA, Baltimore Museum of Art, asked us to kind of take over their Art After Hours program, which is, I don't know if have y'all been to the BMA yet? They do this, they have one on Friday actually, where it's basically you go to the museum after hours and they have a DJ and music and food. So they gave us a budget and we curated that experience. So that was the first time I was like, oh wow, like I can actually make money from doing art. Because I also have a complex still, I do not have a fine art background or a journalism background. But I was like, I guess we're just gonna fake it till we make it. So we're still working on it. But so I worked at BMR, that was all happening at the same time. And the pandemic happened, totally working from home that entire time, curating online, which is weird. And then, and then basically the way that I met my editor-in-chief, Lisa, who y'all met, was from Twitter. So she was tweeting, so we follow each other on Twitter, and she was talking about how she wanted to do a Beyonce karaoke event. I was like, well, I'm doing these events at Disco Bar, like, we should do something. And so I worked with her to do a fundraiser, and it was really, really successful. It was at Center Stage. Were you there? Maybe?
No.
Oh, it was a Center Stage, and it was a huge success. And so I worked with her on a couple of other events, and she was starting the beat, I think, or had just restarted it.
Yeah.
And so she came to me 2.5 years ago and was like, the beat, which y'all heard, got $1 million grant.
Will y'all close that door behind you when you
So we got this funding, and she hired me to be, she said, I want you to be either managing editor or horticulture editor. I was like, I don't know how to be an editor. I'm not a journalist. I remember saying that exactly to her. And she said, you know how to ask questions, and you listen. So you can be a journalist. You are a journalist. So that was a really big leap of faith from her too, because there are not a lot of Black women ran publications, or like that was a lot of faith. So that's how I ended up at the Beat.
So let's talk first about working writing about art.
Okay.
And then we can talk a little bit about putting together art shows. And then, because writing about art, the first thing you have to do is look at the art.
Yes.
What kind of questions do you ask when you're engaging with a piece of art? Mm-hmm. What goes on in your mind when you're looking at something?
Well, so there's you're absolutely right. There's certain art that I interact with in a different way when I'm approaching it as a critic, and then as I'm approaching it as a curator. I think as a curator, it's about relationships more where I am with curating. So I'm thinking about artists who I've been watching, whose work I'm drawn to. But if I'm just if I'm going to a museum or a gallery, I tend to move very fast at the gallery and just kind of look. And I take photos, and then I kind of go and see what speaks to me. I'm like, okay, I'm really drawn to this piece. And then I spend some time researching the artist, because a lot of my curatorial platform with WDLY and the Beat is making space for marginalized voices. Like, I try to write about Black, brown, queer people before anybody else, because there are not a lot of Black art critics, which is, it's just the truth. Same with a lack of Black journalists. So I'm just kind of trying to see what resonates with me, and also if the artist is there, I'm always really excited, because I'll be like, tell me about this piece, and I always like to be like, what's your favorite piece? People feel different things when they're doing exhibitions, and so and I just try to listen and take a lot of notes, and then I'll usually go back. So I went to a press preview yesterday at the BMA for this photographer called Latoya Ruby Frazier, and it's up until the spring. I recommend y'all go and see it. She's brilliant. So I went there, and I'm gonna go back. So now I'm gonna go back and take my time and see which pieces I want to zoom in and write about.
So how many of y'all have gone in Baltimore somewhere to look at art? Cool, about half. We noticed and we'll talk about Teri's work around collages, but as you walk into this building, through the main door, there's a large collage there. And so some of looking at art is noticing what's going on around you, and then thinking how to look at that. So you mentioned how you look at it differently if you're working as a critic, as a curator? What about just as a person? What kind of stuff happened in your brain that made you care enough about art to blow off law school and stuff to be going and looking at it before there was any career there, just when you were a person? What?
Also remind me that we worked on a show together.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because it just came back to me. So my mom passed away, but our entire upbringing, she always had us in the museum, like always. There was like the Museum of Natural History in Fort Worth or the Modern Art Museum. And then when I went to school, I took this class called Religion, Art, and Visual Culture with a professor named Sage Elwell. And that was the first time where I thought about like an intersection of art and philosophy, or that art wasn't a separate thing. And that just blew my mind. So I think that's when I was like, okay, I'm gonna take some painting classes, I'm gonna take some other things from other people to writing. And so I ended up getting a degree in psychology. I was supposed to have a double degree, but I failed three. So whatever, I said it, get out of there. But it was just spending time in museums, like just so many memories attached to certain works of art, and then learning about, there's this piece called Self-Portrait 1956 by Francis Bacon that was, and my professor told me about it, and I remember just being super depressed at that time, and he was saying that the artist was also a person that experienced depression. I was like, that's crazy, like, I can totally feel that from being in front of this artwork. And so that was like, okay, I just sit in there and just look at that painting. You know? I know that this seems abnormal, but I'm definitely, there's something going on. So like I don't think it's kind of silly when people say that there's a spiritual aspect to engaging with art, but it's like that with music too. I think if you're really, really into music, you understand how much it kind of motivates you throughout your day. So that's it, just like I always come back to it. So yeah.
So we're gonna get a couple questions from y'all before I then ask some more. Make sure everyone is able to ask as we go, so you don't have to keep in mind. So what are you wondering?
What's your the most influential painting or song that you've seen?
Definitely that painting, Self-Portrait 1956, but also I am, a part of my focus, my scholarship is collage. So anything by Romare Bearden, which is why I was so excited when we came in the building, I really love. And I guess like Shan Wallace, I've been looking at her work a lot. If you've been to the Lexington Market downtown, that really big collage, her work is something that is also like, okay, I have to write about this, or I have to curate this.
Hers is the one when you're inside the market, that if you're on the second floor that rises up above and then goes down below onto the first floor.
Yeah. And the reason I mentioned Shan is because when I knew Shan, and I was a fan of Shan, and I met Shan, and I was like, oh my God, I love your work. And then we ended up, I curated her into some show, but then we just continued a curatorial artist relationship. And then I got invited by the National Museum of Women in the Arts to select artists to go into the exhibition that just went down, and I selected Shan's work and then picked it. So it's just been really cool to see both of our careers keep going. And she's going to be in my next book, which is really exciting. So like, she's just, part of my motivation for being a critic and curator is the artist. Like I want people to buy their work, I want them to get published, because I do not get paid a lot of money. So that kind of makes me feel like, okay, like this is like service. Like that feels good to me. Like I got this museum acquisition, or like I'm doing a show here. Like that feels really good. Like one of the artists that's in my book was just in the Tyler Perry miniseries that just came out on Netflix, or yeah, like if somebody's in like Vogue or something, I'm like, okay, like this is not for nothing. It's not in my bank account, but the artist is good.
How do you feel, before we go back to them for another one, how do you feel about the opposite of that, maybe in terms of writing, if you have to write a review that's not positive?
Okay,
or
so
some people don't do that at all.
I don't do that. I feel like I'm not supposed to be like that, because I remember at an older job, they're like, you don't have to write for the artist. I was like, no, I want to. Like maybe, because also a lot of the art world is white supremacy. So me and my platform and what I do, because I also freelance for some national, international publications. So So that's what I'm gonna do. Is I'm gonna write about art that I believe in, that needs to be in a national or international audience. If I don't, and I tell like joking because people are always like, you should write about me. You're coming to my show. And I'm like, if you're asking me and you keep asking me, you don't want me to write about you because it's not gonna be like my heart's not gonna be in it. So I will not write a review about something that I don't like, and that's probably wrong. Again, I did not go to journalism school, so I can say that. But
I mean, I wouldn't say it's wrong at all, especially y'all have a fairly small number of pages every other week.
Yeah.
When I was arts editor of City Paper, I was very committed to writing negative reviews. Because I would commit to what I was going to review. We'd have a schedule, and I had pages I had to fill every week.
Okay.
But it was, I thought it was a way, and it was sort of I felt like at least my job to say what was happening, and not just stuff that I liked. And so if there was stuff that was happening, and it wasn't, I didn't think it was good in whatever way, I would write that. But artists were the most sensitive, like stage people, theater people, you write a negative review, they're like, oh, thanks for that, that kind of hurt a little bit, but whatever. Art people, I walked into a show after writing a review one week, and every single person made a concerted effort to turn their back and all at the same time as a protest or something.
Oh my God.
And because people are really sensitive about it.
And that's the other thing. I feel like that maybe that's like my anxiety has like kept me towards writing about things that are favorable or not. It's never like, there is some criticism sometimes, but it's never a scathing like, I hate this. That's not gonna happen. I can't do it.
Yeah.
But I'm not interested in being that kind of critic. I would rather be somebody that people think listens to them and kind of helps them maybe even develop the next part of their practice. Like I do a lot of exhibition text. So if a friend, I just got back from Miami last week because the gallery brought me there because I wrote an essay about my friend's show. And like, that's the kind of what I want to do. Like, I don't want to be people turn their back on me when I walk into the room. But there's different strokes for different folks. So.
And it is part of the job of what a critic does is helping the artist think about what they're doing next or what they're doing. And I can think of pieces of yours that while overall positive, are also saying, but this could be like.
Because artists are super, like, if I'm very sensitive. Like But I think that maybe a lot of what I'm doing, I've been curating less because the beat takes up so much of my life. But my main curatorial project is Black Collages, and that has been a place where it's just it's just a platform, not low stakes, but it's just a space for people to have their work shown. And so I feel like if I was negative or kind of a gatekeeper, I wouldn't be doing what I'm supposed to be doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, what is the point of like a Black woman starting this program and then like not letting everybody have a space when there's so many other spaces that are just, because it's like, again, like as a person who doesn't have a fine art background, does not come from money, I had to do all this stuff to just be here. So why would I kind of beat Debbie down? But that somebody else could do that.
Another question from the students, and we'll talk about Black Collages.
Do you believe like every piece of art tells a story?
Yes, I do.
Whether it's good or bad?
Yeah, I do. And that's why I like to talk to artists a lot. And like I said, every writer, curator is different, but I do think so. And that's why I think sometimes I'm drawn to certain pieces because whatever they were saying, I'm kind of picking up on it. But I do believe that. I don't think that people just make stuff there's something in everything that people make. Whether or not it matters the resonance of me or not.
Is sometimes that something like you talked about how much of the art world is white supremacist?
Yeah.
What about when that thing the story it tells, that thing there is something like that? How do you engage with that? Well,
that's another thing. It's like, I mean, like with Black Collages, I got a lot of pushback still of people who were like, why don't you do like a white collages platform? Like, we're not doing that. Or like I require photographs on the page because people would be submitting work that were not Black. Why are we doing this? There's like 500 other places to go. But I don't really like.
So people who aren't Black were submitting to Black Collages?
Of course.
Wow.
I also really don't like to write about when like artists are making work that has like trauma images of Black people in trauma or death, I'm not gonna engage or review that. It's just not for me. I can't do it. But it's like, again, that's why there's a number of publications around the world. But yeah.
Jamie, you had a question as well?
Yes, she said that she had an upcoming book, and I was gonna ask her, did she ever write any other books, or this is your first book?
So the new book is going. So this is my second book. The first book was kind of self-published with. So basically, I work with these collectors, these white collectors based out of Washington State. They have the third largest collection of collage art, but no Black artists in their collection. And it was around that time of like after George Floyd and Breonna Taylor were extrajudicially murdered, that there was like this big push of like collect Black art, buy Black art, and like so they hired me to kind of help them, because I do a lot of artists here that were making collage. So I did that. So what I did was I started this Instagram page called Black Collages, just to organize artists' work that I was interested in for them, but also because it was only like a year contract, but also as a curator in the future, whose work I wanted to pay attention to. And so it just like kind of took off. So I never thought that anybody besides me and maybe my friends would see. Like I thought it was just gonna be like a fake Instagram, but it's like has like 10,000 followers now. Like it's a very engaged community. It drains me, but I'm so happy it's there. It's just me answering the DMs. But that's why I talk about like service, because there have been in the making of the first book was really hard. It was the pandemic, my job, just not feeling well, and then the publishers were in Seattle, so I would get off of work and work for like 4 hours on Zoom with them every night to finish it. And then like at the end, they're like, you know what? We don't really expect us to make any money, and like we don't. And I'm like, why did you ask me to do this? But also just they kind of lost faith in the project, and they also what they said was going to happen didn't happen. Like I wanted there to be only Black writers and only essays by Black people in the book, and that didn't happen because they chose to have one of their friends write an essay, and then they wrote an essay. And so, but I was like, you know what? I want the book to come out because it's good for the artists, because all of the work was purchased by the collectors. So that was like a self-published book. So basically, they paid to have that published, and so I got money while I was under contract with them, but I don't make money from that book really. What I make money from is like a talks. Like I did a talk at the Phillips collection. I'll do something at the BMA online. This next book, I have an agent now, and we're gonna be taking it to like the bigger publishers, and so that I'm excited about that because my goal for the first book I was like I want the artists to go into a bookstore and see their book. With the first book, it's kind of like print on demand. Like you can order through Amazon, but this next one is going to be in actual bookstores. But it's a lot of work.
So yeah, let's talk about the book and about Black collage. So first of all, tell us about collage.
Okay, what do you mean? Just
Well, who knows what collage is when we're talking about it?
A whole bunch of pictures in one.
yeah. So I think that when I started doing Black collages, I thought a collage was just one thing. I thought it was like that, and that's still what I'm normally putting on the Instagram and on the website. But I'm kind of branching out into more of like a friend told me about it. He's like, well, like sampling in music is a collage. And I was like, what? I was like, no, think about it. Like you're chopping something up and making something, you're remixing as a collage. And so that was really exciting. But that's a book for later. That's 2 books from now. But a collage is pretty much is when you take something and put it over something else, is the quote that Romeo Bearden says. Or that might be Louis Armstrong said that. Don't quote. Yeah, one of them said that it's just taking something and putting it on something else. And you can do it either online, on your phone now. There's like a collage feature on iPhones now, or like 2-dimensionally, or on a substrate or a piece of paper or something. And I think the thing that I was drawn to with collage is that it's something, again, as a person who doesn't have a traditional fine art background, collage has historically been something that people from marginalized backgrounds can access because all you need are those items to do it. Like you don't have to go to a fancy art school. Micah is like $6,000 a year, which is insane to me. Or you like art. Like I remember being in college and being unable to afford all of the materials on the supply list because art materials are expensive. Or like all of this is prohibitively expensive for no reason, in my opinion. But if anybody can collage, like that's what's so exciting to me. So I'll do workshops at the library, or basically I just have people come in. We did one at Lexington Market. Just like I'll usually play house music and people just sit down and collage. So I feel like we all collage at one point when we're younger. And that's it also is something that kind of makes people kind of not be on their phone, which is something like I'm chronically online. So it's a time where all you can do is move things around and kind of be present. Which is
these people don't understand anything about being on their phones all the time. Now, do you?
I had to take a social media break, and I remember just like accidentally picking up my phone. Like, this is an addiction. I can't stop looking at it. So, hell, y'all are what generation are y'all? Are y'all? I'm a millennial, so that's what we do. I'm sorry. We're just plugged into the matrix.
No, half of them, even when I called them out, all that didn't look up from their phones. So.
But collaging is just exciting because I just think that it kind of breaks down all these other barriers between mediums and institutions. And so another thing is that because of that, the art world, again, museums have given less respect to collage as a discipline. So if you, like for a while, if you went into a museum, it would be like mixed media or something. And so trying to also, my work with Black collages is to, because a lot of Black collage artists have historically been ignored. So the reason I started the page is because I was Googling Black collage art and I couldn't find like a stopping point or a point before Romare Bearden, but I knew for a fact that there were other people. It's like, I'll just make a page in a database of it. So that's what the work is. So now, apparently, I'm the only living scholar of Black collage.
Wow,
that's crazy.
That is crazy.
So that's
how many of you have made collages before?
I like it.
How about the kid?
Yeah, I told her I was an artist. She want to be an art teacher.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So if y'all are Micah, have a show that's coming out January 31st called Layers: The Art of Contemporary Collage. If y'all want to come to the opening, there's also going to be we're doing a collage day thing where we just have collaging all over the campus, and it's open to everybody. But a lot of the artists that are in the book, and also a lot of artists from Baltimore, like Derek Adams, he's from Baltimore. Shan is in the show. Devin Morris is from Baltimore. So that's also the thing is like I've been here for 8 years, but it's like this is home. So I'm always also trying to pull in Baltimore and then Texas sometimes into the mix.
One reason I asked if y'all had done collages, it's fascinating the way that like things that are really cutting edge art at one point, then mobiles too, which you make in kindergarten, were seen as really radical, and the same with collage. And then it goes, and when we get older, we almost think, oh no, we don't do that anymore. It's just something you do it as a kid in school. But it's a way that what Teri was saying is it's a way with very few, with a glue stick, maybe, and some scissors.
And some water.
Yeah.
You can make something. Yeah. But I mean, it's just, another part of it is a friend of mine said that the methodology of collage is like the methodology of Black life. She's a scholar named Kalila Harris, and so she's saying that part of being a Black person in this country is just hustling and doing what you have to do, like trying to just make something happen. And so if all you have is these things, and you make something beautiful that deserves to be collected, or pays your bills, or ends up in a museum, like that's incredible. So, like also like
What do you think is the most fundamental question of art for the students?
Me?
No, the students, and then I will ask you that.
Okay.
I don't want to get a couple hypotheses.
That's deep. It's a philosophy class?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. What is what do you think it is?
My hypothesis is what if?
Okay.
So you're sitting there, and I mean, like one of the earliest collages, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, were putting materials onto partially painted candy.
Yeah.
Painted like some real wallpaper
Yeah.
or real pieces of newspaper. You're
Paper.
painting a cafe table and you cut a piece of newspaper and you stick it on there.
Yeah.
I imagine that thought being like, what if
Yeah.
I just put the actual paper on there?
Yeah.
And then, but it's the same with, what if I do that but I hang it from the ceiling?
Yeah.
Or what if I try stripping away all the colors except for reds or blues or whatever, like that it's always an experiment.
Yeah.
Where you're wondering what will happen if you try something.
Yeah.
Does it seem?
Yeah, I think about it as like, even with my writing, it's like, how do I translate what I'm feeling for somebody else? Or how do I, because in my opinion, a lot of it is about, I don't want to say connection in like a cheap way, but it's like maybe minimizing difference, or I don't know what I'm like. What is this invisible thread that's connecting us, and how do we make something that brings us together? That sounds, I don't know what I'm trying to say. But if like the same way that I saw that painting and I felt something, I don't really know if Francis Bacon was thinking that, but I know that when I hear, like when I hear music that resonates with me, it's like, okay, like this person's experiencing something similar too. I guess it would be that. It's just like, how do I say translate what I'm saying onto this canvas in a way that other people can also understand and maybe see themselves. So a lot of it is about representation too. But that doesn't mean that all art is about representation, but that's just like what I'm chasing.
Yeah, I mean, think about that in terms of what we've talked about way back at the beginning with philosophy, and the reason that Socrates went around asking everyone questions, because we feel like, maybe we are, trapped in our own perspective. How do I know what the world is for you? We talked about how do I know that when you say green and I say green, that we're even talking about the same visual experience, other than we both agree, oh, it's the stuff that grass looks like and that trees look like, but it could be red to you. And art is one of the ways that we're able to communicate something about how the world feels to us.
Yeah.
How it is to be in the world in that way. And I think connecting it to music is smart, because it really can do that.
Yeah. I think like didn't James Baldwin, he was like, the role of the artist is like to make you something. Let me look it up. You keep asking questions. I'll look it up.
So, another question from the room. What are you wondering? What do you think? What do you wonder when you think about art?
I think it's the role of the artist is to make conscious of things you cannot see. That's what he said. Yeah.
To make conscious the things you cannot see.
I actually want to know your thoughts about the book, The Artist Way. Like,
I loved it.
what was your experience?
So again, I was a very depressed college student. That was when I left in 5 years, and I was supposed to graduate in probably 3, but it's fine. We're here now. But I got that book after I had to take time off from school and come back, and I know the person that gave it to me was like, you love art, you're a creative person. And I was like, I'm not an artist, like I go to these drawing classes and I suck. Because I would always be in class and like, what's happening up here is not translating to what that is. And that's another reason why I started writing, because I know I can write. I can't paint, but I can write. The person that gave me the book, and I did the morning pages, and it really, I feel like made me feel present and made me kind of understand. Like it just felt like this makes sense. Like this, again, like reading her words, I was like, okay, I'm not the only person that feels like this, and it just kind of gave me some purpose for a little bit. And so I hadn't really thought about it, and then my friend, who's a scientist, was saying it. She's like, you know what, I would really like to be an artist. And I was like, you are an artist. And then I was like, wait a second. And I ordered her the book, and she talked about how much it had just, again, like kind of gave her time to just wake up and think about like the morning pages. And yeah, it was just, I think everybody should read it. It's really, I know a couple places do courses and classes about it. There's online classes. It's just, why did you like it?
Same as you.
Yeah.
I was like in my transfer process of moving institutions. I was like moving physically, just feeling like very unmotivated, very uncreative, feeling very lost. I picked it up. Well, actually, I started doing the morning pages before I even bought the book because I saw it on TikTok.
Yeah. Okay.
And that was where like I started doing the morning pages. I started to notice a bit of a shift. It got heavy after a while, so I stopped.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I wound up buying the book probably like a month and a half ago. Taking me forever to get through the chapters because the introduction, like, that took me like a week or two in itself to be able to sit down and like move through them. But I still do the artist dates.
I'm gonna reorder it. Thank you. Yeah.
I'll put a link to that on our announcements too, if anyone else has interest in that. How many of you have an outlet, have something that you do that you consider creative? Music, writing, visual art, dancing,
I do ceramics.
ceramics.
Do you use a wheel? Or no? That's very cool.
Tell us about it a little bit. What drew you to do? What draws you to do that?
Well, like I grew up like pretty creative all my life, but then like my mom, like she used to like do too much, and like since then she was like I get supportiveness, but like she used to be trying to make it like every part of my life, so I kind of like grew apart from it. But then in high school and middle school, we always had like the free programs because clay is really expensive, so the free programs for like ceramics and stuff, and I always did it. And after high school, I tried to find like little workshops, but like they're like $400. That's too much. So there's this one spot over at East, and they allow you to like buy like a pound of clay and like use their studio to like make whatever you want, and everything is included with like the amount of clay that you buy. So like the paints and all that. But I like it because it's just like keep your hands busy. Like personally, like it's dirty, so I can't really be on my phone.
Yeah.
And like back to like she said, like phone addiction. So it's like it keeps my mind busy. Then my headphones starts to listen to music.
Yeah, ways to keep off of the phone, not only in not doing it at that minute, but also talking about black collage, talking about going to see art. It's a way to not let the algorithm determine the way that you see the world. It's a way to break free of that sort of matrix of the algorithm determining the next thing that you see, the next thing you hear, and the next thing you like.
Did you have something you were gonna say? Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh, sorry.
No.
What other kinds of creative outlets do people?
I actually really like hobbies because I grew up the youngest child, so they're all significantly older than me, and I had to find things to do. I collect anything Hello Kitty or glassware, so like I like to decorate for the season. So like in my suite, we have like the candy bowl and decorations around. Lego building, so I have like lots of Hello Kitty Lego building sets. I like to roller skate. I've been roller skating for like 8 years. I like to thrift. I like to sew. Stuff to do.
I need a hobby. My therapist is like, you have to have a hobby that's not art related. But the clothes.
Do you create art yourself?
No, I don't have time. No, just maybe right. No, I don't. I need to. I think I'm gonna start doing puzzles. I do color. I just got one of those coloring books and like the 50-pack of Crayolas. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Was that something you desire? Like one idea that people have about criticism is that, oh, the people who can't do the thing, who try it and then fail, end up being critics. But I noticed that when I was an art critic, I wasn't trying to do that kind of art. I was trying to understand what people were doing.
But I think that's why I curate. Like I think that might be one of my hobbies. I just don't have time. Like curating is so stressful. It's a lot of work for not really a lot of reward. I mean, financial reward because it's time. Like the time that I'm curating is time I could be writing something that will give me a check, but I'm doing this thing. But I do love it. It's just I can't do it as much as I would like. I think I did like one show this year. I used to do something like every month, I feel like. And then I have the Micah show, but I've been working on that for a year. After that, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Another show.
So yeah, talk about when you're writing about something, you're focused on that and how to get that to the reader. And I imagine when you're curating and you're thinking of all of the different pieces in a show, you're having to think more about how they're gonna.
Yeah.
It's almost like a collage in itself. The
Yeah.
show is like a collage.
Well, so like we worked on a show together. What year was that?
That was in the 2020, so that was
That's
the middle of the
crazy.
pandemic.
So at this space called Current Space, which is wild because it's a full circle moment. But that show, I co-curated with my friend Casey McKeel. There's different type of curators. Casey is very methodical, so she like knows how to do math and decide where things go. I can't do any of that. I cannot do math. That's at all. But I can kind of think about relationships between pieces. Or I'm really good at talking with artists, maintaining communication with artists, following up with them. Because sometimes people are scared to do shows because they've never done it before. Or they're like, I don't know what my artist statement should be. I'm good at doing those things, but I really am terrified the entire time until like opening night. And then I go inside and I'm like, okay, now I can exhale, everything's up. But before that, I'm just always super anxious about it. But I'm thinking a lot about, I think about stuff that might sell, because again, it's energy and time for the artist to lend their work. A lot of artists make new work for shows sometimes, and so I feel bad when I curate something and something doesn't sell, because yes, people saw it, and that might eventually lead to another show or another sale, but I want money to go in their pocket. So that's probably ambitious, but it's a lot of, like, I had an artist in my last show that made 6 new pieces that she shipped from the Bahamas, and like I think somebody in her family shipped them, so I was coordinating with them, and I was sad that nothing sold, because I was like, this is beautiful work, and I feel like eventually people will come around and recognize it, but it's a lot of just kind of visualizing in my head, but I really don't know what it looks like until I walk through after install, which is the worst thing ever. The word, I hate install. You're just at the gallery every day for a week, all night, and everybody's got an attitude. So, not that but were you at install?
No.
Okay, yeah, it
Yeah.
was just,
Brandon, I think he went for the install.
Probably, he helped with the TVs, I think.
Yeah.
So we did this exhibition based, do they know about your book?
Yeah, they watched the documentary.
Okay, yeah, so before the documentary came out into the world, you had this footage. So we did this exhibition of protest images. And like Devin Allen's work was in there, Shay McCoy, Philip Muriel, I cannot remember the other person, but the show was in these window boxes, so because it was during the pandemic, so you couldn't go inside. So we had this stack of TVs that we showed y'all's documentary chopped up.
Or it wasn't.
It was not the whole thing.
It was just body cam footage.
Body cam footage,
Of
yeah.
a police officer reaching and stealing this giant bag of
Yeah.
cocaine out of someone's car and
Yeah.
pocketing it.
And then also like the Eddie though. There was
Oh, and then the Eddie talk
Yeah.
and LeVar Mon
yeah,
talk.
yeah, and they came to the opening, which was so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was really neat to see, because that was the first exhibition that I got to work on that was after the pandemic began. And it was really cool to just see everybody outside. Like that install was different because we were just so excited to be outside.
That was the only book event we really did because the book was out already.
That's wild.
And we couldn't have events anywhere, and so we just showed up on the sidewalk and all these people.
It was
were
so,
there.
that's true. And everyone's like, it's so nice to see everybody with their masks. But yeah, curiosity is awesome.
And something you mentioned a minute ago I wanted to go back to is the part about making money, about selling.
Yeah.
The people selling their art, because, and we were talking about book market stuff before class started, and it's always struck me that in writing you try to make a book, at least you try to make art, you try to make, and then whether it does well or not is just the casino.
Yeah.
It feels like, as you're curating, do you try to think towards, I mean, I know you want the people to make money, but is there like, how much does it go in your calculations of like, oh, this, what will sell and what won't sell versus what you think's important versus not?
I think it's a balance. I always want people who haven't shown before, and I'm trying to get better about not doing this division between like emerging artists or people that are established. Like I want people to be in conversation with artists who have been making work for a long time, because that elevates their career. And I think that it's those things first, and then it's like, okay, out of their work, what will sell in this market? Because things sell differently here than they might in Dallas or in DC. So like I might try to have like one more affordable piece, or a piece that the gallery will put on a payment plan, and then like a larger like $10,000 piece that like a collector might come in and purchase. But it's not my ultimate concern. I think I hate to be like it's all about exposure, because at least your eyes are, and because I've gotten a lot of people coming to me years later being like, oh, this person reached out to me after they came to the show a couple of years ago, and now I'm doing a solo by myself. But then like it's also just like, but then the other part of it is that takes years to happen, and you have to pay bills and stuff. So it's a balancing act. And like I said, I wanted in my mind all those pieces would have sold, but it's also art, everything is expensive right now. Like art is a luxury for going to an exhibition and buying a piece for $200 is not something that I can do. So it's like it's hard. I don't know. It's exhausting, but it makes me happy when the artists are happy and they were happy.
Let's get a couple more questions.
Yes.
But isn't art like investments? Like eventually it'll be worth more than what you pay, right?
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like I have a piece that I've been paying on for 2 years that I just paid off. And it's like, I've been paying on, and I told my dad, like, you've been paying on something for 2 years? He said, yes, because, again, I do not make a lot of money. But that piece I know in a couple of years I'll be able to sell. Because the artist just went to a fair and everything sold out. So that's kind of like another thing about being creators, the relationships thing, or finding things that you are drawn to is like, you know that this person might do well. I hate to say it like that because that sounds kind of cheap, but it's just like, okay, it's an investment, right? So yeah. But sometimes people want gratification now. Like sometimes people need money now. I totally understand.
And it won't always be an investment though. That's where the casino element comes in. Like sometimes the artist will do something terrible later or whatever, and it's like, oh, their work is now like you have to take it off the wall, or sometimes people lose interest in them, or they go become a banker.
Oh my God, I was thinking about that because I went by the Walters and they had that Kahinde Wiley piece on the side of the wall. No, I didn't think about that. But I mean, same with music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the people who are really interested in.
I mean, because if you had asked me a couple of years ago, I would have said Kanye was the person that was my number one, but now.
Yeah, you're like,
can't do that anymore. Because I just hope he gets on meds. So he just fixes. Yeah. So yes.
Yeah, I mean that's a fascinating example of someone who is almost more too creative for his own good.
I mean, that class I wrote, the first paper I wrote about Kanye's use of that David LaChapelle cover with him as Jesus when he did Jesus Walks. So that was a really, again, that was the first one that went to the library and went to JSTOR and wrote, and I was feeling very academic. And now it's just like, oh, and I did an interview with an artist for this magazine called Just Smile, and we talked about how we both love Kanye. And now if you go and look at the article, there's a footnote that says when this happened, it was before these things came out. So it's like, that's like a little blemish. That's something that I said that's there. But I mean, like that's, yeah.
So that's maybe it's a good question too. Like how much, you talked about knowing some people but how much do you think about the relation between the art and the artist? If there's a person that you despise, can you like their work?
Can I like it? Nah. Like me personally?
Yeah.
Probably. But I don't know actually. I try not to interact with work with people that I despise.
Like if you hear your old favorite Kanye song come on now, are you like, nobody's around? All right, or are you
Next question. But you know, but there's, I don't know, it's just, again, when you attach a lot of emotion, like art is an emotional thing. I think when we're drawn to an artist, we feel something when we interact with the work. And so it becomes devastating when you're like, oh no, this person's fucked up. So I have to kind of like, sorry for person.
No, it's
You
fine.
have to kind of like take a break, not take a break, but just kind of like know like this relationship ends, like this creative attachment doesn't happen anymore. And that can be like, okay, like, cause again, like that was my personality for a while, was being a Kanye fan, number one, like driving from Dallas to Miami. But now it's like, that's not who I am anymore. So it's difficult, cause it's also like, there was an artist, an author, I can't remember her name, who just died, and it came out that she had just done something really horrible.
Oh yeah.
And I remember that just,
Alison Monroe.
yes, that floored me because I loved her work, but I'm like, that is so horrible. And so that, I was like, why do I feel grief about this person that I've never met? It's because I had spent so much time reading her work and interacting with it. It's weird. It's weird. Like parasocial relationships are strange.
There was a great book that came out last year called Monsters, I think it was just called, by Claire Detter, and it investigated all these people. Like, well, what do you do with these situations?
What do you think?
Yeah, it's tricky. It's like if the person is no longer making money off something, if they're dead, then it's maybe a different matter. And I do notice that there are lines in our, like, you know, you'll see, like for a couple of years, people were like, okay, I can't listen to Michael Jackson anymore.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And now that's just fully back. Like nobody is not listening to Michael Jackson.
Yeah, I saw Morrissey is playing here.
Yeah.
And it was like that whole, everything with him, he's playing with the lyric in a couple of them. Like, okay, that blew over, okay. But.
What do y'all think? Are there people that you are, about the relation between an artist and then their stuff? Like, anybody a Diddy fan in here right now? Anybody still gonna listen to R. Kelly at their wedding anymore or not?
This is very philosophical.
What his actions were, I believe.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Is that really your? Are you just?
No music anyway.
I was listening to
He's like a dance.
I mean, are there people like that y'all used to like that you're like, oh, they do something that you can't listen to now?
It's like problematic things, right?
Yeah. Like some people, like James Brown, I still love, but he was a terrible person.
I didn't know that. I didn't know.
James Brown from Augusta, Georgia.
Yeah. When I was growing up in Columbia, South Carolina, he was in the prison there. But like,
He's on drugs. No, who ain't on drugs?
Well, but kidnapping his wife with a gun and
I did not know.
That's not normal.
You're a journalist. You went deeper than the average person.
Yes,
They didn't put all that out.
Wow.
I mean, but it was, but the same John Lennon, who people think of as all peace and stuff, was like terrible to the women in his life.
Oh yeah.
This is deep. I had a question.
Yeah.
Because I know you mentioned about depression. And so, as your position as a curator, do you feel like you have gotten a glitch now where you know how to help yourself with mental health? Or what do you do differently? Or what advice you can give someone that would have mental health issues with the occupation?
Yeah, well, honestly, there's always, I took this class in college that was like creativity and mental illness, and there's like this kind of romantic notion of being a tortured artist. And a lot of people that I know that are really, like a lot of my friends, it's real. And also the world is really heavy. I think that as I've gotten older, I just have depression, and it comes and it goes. So I've been better at being like, okay, like this is really hard right now. It'll pass. When I was younger, I was like, this is never gonna end. So in those moments where it's heavy, I'm like, okay, I can't take these projects on. I can do the bare minimum. That's usually when I take breaks from. It's the truth. Like take breaks from drinking. I just spend more time just like focusing because I'm like, I just have to like tighten up and just like wait. I've also like I take medication, I have to, and then I go to therapy, so that's been another thing that's been consistent about me just having like at least once a week a place to go and just check in, because sometimes your therapist remembers things that I didn't remember, But also like, yeah, like I think, but that's part of, I remember being in law school and a lot of people would not take care of their mental health, and it was seen as kind of like you know, like we're just gonna drink through it and party through it, and I would be like, this is not healthy. And I feel like a lot of that happens with artists too. I think it's because sometimes you cannot afford, like a reason that I left one of my other jobs is because I didn't have health insurance. I was like, I have to go to therapy, I have to take meds, I cannot afford to. The Beat offered me full health insurance, and I was like, that's what I have to do. I can't be the best me if I am, like I can't be the best version of a writer, editor, if I'm not taking care of my mental health. Like how can I tell an authentic story or be present or be reliable if I'm not checking in with myself? So it's just, and then also like when I'm really, really depressed, I just do like, okay, like 1 hour at a time, I'm just gonna make it through 1 hour today, or just doing one thing. And then also I've been trying to be better about giving myself grace. Because as a person that does creative things, sometimes like you just can't. Like sometimes I just can't physically make words come out, or I can't open my inbox sometimes. And so being better about being like, that's okay. Today is just a bad mental health day. I'm just gonna lay down and watch TV and try again tomorrow. If I don't think I would have been that kind to myself 10 years ago, I would have been like spiraling about it, and then yeah. But it's just I also try to be honest about my own mental health. That's why because it's the truth. I know that, like I mentioned law school, because I had a lot of classmates that I knew were struggling with addiction and just existing. But when you take the bar, they having mental health stuff, they flag your application to kind of for character. It's so stupid for character and fitness. If they don't think you'll be a good attorney, if you're on this is totally, yeah, like if you maybe had these things happen, and I'm like, this is crazy, like you say you're gonna, another reason why I was like, this is not for me. But so yeah, just kind of like again checking with myself, like that was like the morning pages, and then just trying to just like talk to God and just rest, because it does always pass. It's horrible sometimes, but it passes. And sometimes I just can't be, this is so bad as a journalist, sometimes I just can't look at the news, I know, but I'm like, this is too, it's just, especially with the election next week, I'm just like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. That's been like under, I'm like, why can't I sleep? Oh, okay, that's next week.
Down here burning dollars.
Yeah.
I know, and my friend is in New York, and he sent me a message, he's like, Teri, I might lose my mind. And I'm like, I can't even, I'll call you later. Because he's just like, he's a photographer, and he said that there's like all this, it's crazy. So, but no, I hope that helped. It's just trying to be honest with myself, because for a while I wouldn't tell people, I was like, oh, I'm just stressed. Like, no, actually, my brain chemistry is off. So, and that's not something that I can control. But I can be responsible and take care of myself, so that I'm not an asshole. Because there are a lot of people walking around not taking care of their mental health.
I think that's a good place for us to end it as well, because that's one of the major points of philosophy is to know thyself.
Yes.
And it does get easier as you get older. If you the same as learning anything else, you get to know yourself better, and you can learn to be a little more forgiving of yourself as well, by engaging in philosophical thinking. So for homework though, you are going to either go to Teri's Instagram page, which is just @BlackCollage.
Not my personal one. I mean,
Yes.
it's public.
Yes.
Y'all are in college.
No, but you don't have to go comment on Teri's personal one.
You can totally go.
Find a collage and write something about it.
Okay.
Find a piece on there
Thank you.
and write something about it.
And y'all, if you take an issue with the Beat, if any of y'all have questions, or if you ever want to pitch something seriously, we try to bring in student voices or just young people's voices, and I need all the help I can get. So if anybody has a story that they're excited about, if you know something happening here that you want to pitch, like if you have events that you're doing that you want in the paper, that's what it's for. Like it's supposed to be for everybody. Do they have a box here?
No,
Okay, we have to do that.
but I did mention it to Easy.
So yeah. Yeah, no.
Yeah,
Are
it would
you
be
gonna
good.
post that on Blackboard?
I'll put it on Blackboard and you can submit it through Blackboard. Yes.
You can email me directly, and we have a pitch section too.
How's the address to Instagram where we find the collage?
And then it's BLACKCOLLAGE. They call?
Oh, Black Friday.
Okay, I was like, oh God, did they suspend it? Jesus.
If there's another piece of art though that you're really hankering to write about that's not on there, you can do that as well.
Yeah.
Just a couple of paragraphs though of really trying to use the art as a tool for thinking. Though is what you want to do. What does it make you think? How can you use it as a tool to think? How does its material versus what it looks like affect you? How does the subject matter affect you? And really use art as a way to help you think your own thoughts. Does that make sense? And if we get a good amount of people actually do their homework, we may cancel class on election day. We'll see.
Everybody just comment. Yes, on the page.
Oh yeah, and if you comment on the page, then that's great too, because then that gives, that helps boost the page. Okay, see y'all on Thursday. Oh, and if you, I know you're all gonna come in dressed like philosophers for Halloween on Thursday. Will you grab, so I don't have to weave my way around that iPad that's in the chair? Yeah, I haven't, I'm pretty sure I got two, but this weekend I didn't have time to look at it, so I was gonna do it this afternoon.
Okay.
So I'll make sure it's yours, but.
I appreciate it.